have reality shows for seemingly every walk of life, as contestants endeavour to strike it big in the worlds of cooking, modelling, marrying rich people who might have criminal histories, real ambitious crackerjack stuff. It only made sense a generation ago for WWE to get in on the reality game show fad, attempting to distill the training of pro wrestling hopefuls into a series called Tough Enough. Across its 6 seasons, 3 on MTV, 2 on USA, and 1 as a regrettable SmackDown sideshow, Tough Enough has produced 10 winners, and a little spoiler, only one of them is still making any kind of waves in the wrestling business today. Strangely, many of those who fell short in those competitions went on to enjoy greater success than most of the winners, including The Miz, Ryback, Kenny King, Velveteen Dream, and Sonya Deville, to name but a few. It just serves as proof that success in reality TV doesn't keep you in the fast lane forever. But just for a lark, let's take a look back at those 10 individuals who won Tough Enough, examine their careers in wrestling, and see where they all ended up. Mason Ryan, Stevie Ray, Earthquake, Alundra Blaze, Norman Smiley, Zach Gowen, Bam Bam Bigelow, Ahmed Johnson, Tory Wilson, Buff, Bagwell, Robert Gibson, Dave Taylor, Terry Taylor, and Godfather's Holmes. Dwayne Gill, Adam Bomb, Michael Hayes, Cor Von, S.A. Rios, Jim Manai, the manager from Kai and Tai, Jim Powers, Francine, Jack Swagger, Mean Gene, Fat Chick Thriller, Duke the Dumpster, Oklahoma Manta. What happened to that wrestler? Some were main eventing, which leaves me lamenting. What happened to that wrestler? Some since long forgotten, but their memories live on. Maven Huffman. When one thinks of Tough Enough, they tend to think of Maven. The first season of the show was a phenomenon unto itself, coinciding with the relatively high popularity of WWE in the post-Attitude Era. Among an eclectic class of boggled novices, Maven stood out for his earnestness and clear athleticism. In the end, he outlasted Harvard grad Chris Nowinski and connoisseur of lower pitch audio Josh Matthews to win the male half of the grand prize. Immediately, Maven had a presence on WWE programming, feuding with trainer Taz, and later gaining greater fame as the man who eliminated The Undertaker from the 2002 Royal Rumble, and subsequently paid the price for doing so. He reigned several times as Hardcore Champion in 2002, though that was really the peak of life for Maven in WWE. By 2005, he was an aimless heel on the Raw brand and subsequently released from the company that year. Maven's last match came in April 2016 at an independent event in New Jersey. In the years since the apex of his wrestling fame, Maven has appeared for a number of reality TV and home shopping programs. As recently as the fall of 2019, the 43-year-old worked as an account executive for the Brooklyn Nets of the NBA. Nydia Gerard. Flanking Maven in that winner's circle was the affable Nydia, who took the women's spot over Taylor Matheny, the future the Mrs. Brian Kendrick. In her time on the show, Nydia seemed to be in many ways the female version of Maven, in that she was humble, hardworking, and projected a simple friendliness that made it easy for viewers to root for her. That's why it was a bit of a surprise to see her in WWE playing the role of obliviously trashy trailer park princess, seconding redneck messiah Jamie Noble in his many cruiserweight division exploits. Nydia took to the role well enough, with one of her most memorable moments seeing her being blacklisted by Tajiri, resulting in kayfabe blindness. Nydia was released from WWE at the end of 2004 and only wrestled for another year. She finished up her career on a tour of Italy at the end of 2005 before retiring. Nydia now resides in Texas with her husband and 2 children. Jackie Gator. To be fair, it wasn't really her fault. Very shortly after co-winning the second edition of Tough Enough in the summer of 2002, it was decided that Jackie needed to immediately wrestle. With hardly any seasoning whatsoever, Gator went down in history for all the wrong reasons, teaming with Christopher Nowinski in a loss to Trish Stratus and Bradshaw on an episode of Raw. To put it very mildly, Gator's inexperience was laid bare for the world to see. Gator was taken off of TV almost instantly and moved down to Ohio Valley Wrestling to receive more extensive training. She resurfaced on Raw nearly a year later, playing the Miss Linda to Rico's exotic Adrian Street, and the partnership made for a fine middle-of-the-card pairing. She continued to manage Rico after a move to SmackDown in 2004, where an ultra-serious Charlie Haas was sucked into the free spirit zaniness of Jackie and Rico. Jackie continued to wrestle after being released from WWE in 2005, her last match coming for a New York indie show in December of 2011. She married Haas while the two were still in WWE, and they reside in Texas with their 4 children. Linda Miles. Unlike her Tough Enough 2 counterpart, Miles managed to avoid the shame that came with that infamous Raw match, reporting to Ohio Valley around the same time as Gator. The two even faced off at OVW events in the early part of 2003, but their paths would never really cross on the main WWE roster again. At the same time Gator was returning to the fold as Miss Jackie, Miles became a manager on the SmackDown brand. Renamed Shaniqua, Miles managed the leather and chains-loving siblings Doug and Danny Basham, taking on the alpha female role of a dominatrix. She managed the two to SmackDown's tag team belts in late 2003, leading to a near 4-month reign with the gold, all the while she asserted her dominance over the other females on the blue brand. Her final appearance came at No Way Out in 2004, when she teamed with the Bashams in a handicap match loss to Rikishi and Scotty 2 Hotty. After wrestling one last match in 2005, coincidentally against Nydia, Miles left the wrestling industry. She became a school teacher in the Cincinnati area and is also a referee for college basketball games. Matt Cappotelli. The class of Tough Enough 3 produced two highly agile standouts, one of whom was the laid-back Cappotelli. During the course of the show's run, Cappotelli found himself in the wrestling headlines for an altercation between himself and guest trainer Hardcore Holly that left Cappotelli noticeably battered. He went on to split time working numerous house shows and dark matches on the main brands, while winning tag team gold in OVW with Thrill Seeker's partner Johnny Jeter. In November 2005, Cappotelli won the OVW heavyweight title from his ex-tag partner, and there were plans to get him ready for a run on the main roster. Sadly, it was announced in early 2006 that Cappotelli was suffering from a malignant brain tumor, and handed the championship back, ending his career just as he was hitting his stride. He had the tumor removed in May of 2007 in a successful procedure. In the years after, he worked as a personal trainer, as well as a trainer for OVW's Beginners program. Unfortunately, a decade later, Cappotelli was diagnosed with an aggressive form of brain cancer. The following year, in June 2018, Cappotelli passed away from complications of the cancer at the age of 38. John Hennigan. He's a man of many surnames, but we begin this entry with the given one. The endless elasticity, chiseled frame, and mellow surface charm all seem to promise great things for the Southern California native. After some time spent on Raw as Eric Bischoff's toady, Hennigan, now Johnny Nitro, formed M&M with Joey Mercury and then girlfriend Melina, racking up tag gold in OVW and WWE. Though he held the IC title a few times under the Nitro handle, Hennigan hit upon his ideal role when he became the morose and melancholy John Morrison in 2007. ECW gold, IC titles, tag championship reigns with fellow Tough Enough alum The Miz, you name it, Morrison won it. He spent over 6 years on the main roster as part of various championship pitches, and upon leaving WWE in late 2011, became a highly sought-after name elsewhere, winning top gold in Lucha Underground and Impact Wrestling. Morrison recently returned to WWE after 8 years away from the company, picking up where he left off on the SmackDown brand. Daniel Puder. You know how when a movie franchise gets too deep into its sequels, they resort to ridiculous gimmicks? Let's put Jason in space, or let's do Police Academy in Russia, or let's let Nicholas be the Marine this time. Well, Tough Enough 4 was as hacky and inane as it got, relegating the show to a silly weekly competition on SmackDown. One man who seemed far above the goofiness was Puder, an amateur wrestler with a refined background in mixed martial arts. Puder nearly forced wrestling god Kurt Angle to tap out during an unscripted segment, and later defeated fellow contestant The Miz in a boxing match to crystallize his victory. Allegedly, Puder's success went to his head, as various reports have indicated. He ended up being chopped into thin deli slices in the 2005 Royal Rumble match and never seen on the main roster again. He left WWE in the autumn of 2005 and departed from the business following short stints in ROH and New Japan later in the decade. Puder is now a private instructor in MMA and also runs My Life, My Power, a company that provides programs aimed at improving emotional intelligence and achievement in schools and businesses. Andy Lavine. In actuality, Lavine was something of a ringer, having signed to the FCW developmental group of WWE in 2010, and had begun wrestling for them that summer, though he was released before ever actually appearing on TV. On a season that included future Lucha Underground stars in Ivelisse, Son of Havoc, and Marty the Moth, as well as an eventual Funkadactyl in Cameron, the grand prize went to the towering heavyweight. After being given the Laurel and Hardy handshake in the form of a 2-part beating from Vince McMahon and Steve Austin, Lavine was sent back to developmental, where he took on the name Kevin Hackman for some goddamn reason. Some of the notable opponents that Andy Hacks wrestled included Big E in a match for FCW television, as well as untelevised bouts against the likes of Aiden English, Corey Graves, and Tyler Breeze. Come the spring of 2012, however, Lavine was let go from WWE not even a year after winning the contest. Since then, the Silent Rage plied his trade as a wrestler in Puerto Rico, where he won the WWC Universal Heavyweight title later in 2012. He last competed for the promotion in June 2014 and hasn't wrestled since. His social profiles haven't been updated since 2015, and his present whereabouts are largely unknown. Sara Lee. A competitive powerlifter from Michigan, Lee won out in Tough Enough 6 over a female field that included Sonya Deville, Mandy Rose, and Chelsea Green, looking to become the next WWE hopeful. She formally made her in-ring debut on the NXT brand in January 2016, teaming with Liv Morgan and Aaliyah to defeat Mandy Rose and the Iconics at a live event in Venice, Florida. Her match history from there didn't fill up too much, as Lee only worked 7 more matches in all, the vast majority of which were tag matches at NXT house shows. Mostly the showings were mix and match deals, working with different workers as both partners and opponents. She did team with Ember Moon at one event in April 2016, when Ember was still using her real name of Adrienne Reese. In her final match in August 2016, Lee teamed with Morgan to defeat Aaliyah and Billie Kay in Tampa. The following month, Lee was released from the company. Just days later, she announced that she was pregnant with Forgotten Sons member Wesley Blake, the father. The two have since married and had a second child in early 2019. Josh Breville. Like Lavine before him, Breville possessed great potential on his size alone. Standing 6'7" tall and weighing in excess of 280 pounds, Breville certainly had the frame to be a coveted WWE prospect. He beat out the other males in the 2015 competition, including Patrick Velveteen Dream Clark, to earn the $250,000 contract. Before he could even wrestle his first match in developmental, however, Breville garnered a bit of locker room heat for tweeting dismissively about the Social Outcast stable. Nonetheless, the Yeti debuted in ring at NXT house shows using the name Bronson Matthews. He lost the few matches he had, counting the lights against Wesley Blake and Dylan Miley, the future Lars Sullivan, among others. Unfortunately for Breville, injuries piled up in the form of concussions, and he was sidelined from the ring after July 2016. He remained with WWE, albeit far from operations, until he was finally released in November 2017, as it was believed he would never be cleared to return. Breville hasn't been involved in wrestling since, though former fellow Tough Enough hopeful Tana Saraceno revealed in 2018 that Breville was considering trying MMA. The Colorado native is married and has 2 children.
Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. You can follow us on Twitter at Cultaholic. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Cultaholic. If you enjoy what we do here at Cultaholic, you can pledge to us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Cultaholic. And most importantly, don't forget to hit subscribe and join us.